Flash review. Flash review. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Flash Review. Definitely didn't just botch that. Not gonna edit it out though. Hell yeah. Anyways, so the one time I was walking down the street and it was just a pretty average day, and then I went into this market to buy some pears, and I also bought some oranges, and then I realized that the oranges were ball shaped. So that's this episode. Balls. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into the first game. So the first game is Speedball. Let's review the music first. There is no music, so the music gets 0 out of 1. I changed the rating system this time. Anyways, let's get into the graphics are kind of bad, to be honest. Like, here's why they're bad. The space in the background is obviously just a random image that the person that made this found. It's like, they didn't design that image. It's obviously just a PNG of a random ass image. And that's not even the worst thing about the graphics. You also have these platforms that are obviously 2D, which just kind of look lazy. It's like, couldn't you just make them 3D platforms? The game's slope does that. But besides that, there's not really any hitboxes to speak of. So the graphics get a 1 out of 3. Now, let's get into the gameplay doesn't really have any, like, stakes. You kind of just go around and, like, if you fall off, you just respawn. I mean, I'm pretty sure you have lives, but who even cares about getting a game over when the gameplay is so dull? You're just going straight, pretty much, and at the end you get a high score. It's not really fun gameplay. It's like, there's not much to talk about, really, in the gameplay. So the gameplay gets 1 out of 6, which is why in total the game gets a 2 out of 10. Now let's get into the next game. Helix is a game that exists. Now let's get into the Alright, so the music is bad. That's what I'm going to say about it. You see, there is no music, and there's just a jumping sound that sounds very annoying. It's just very annoying. So the music gets a 0 out of 1. Now, let's get into the graphics are okay. I'd say they're about average. You can change what your character, or whatever weird, strange ball thing looks like, which adds on to the graphics. But besides that, I like the visual style of it in general. So I'm tempted to give the graphics a 3, but the graphics are going to have to get a 2 out of 3. Now, let's get into the So, in the game, you're a ball, and you gotta try to get into the holes. So, it's very hard to get into the holes. You gotta suck a few guys' dicks, alright? I'm just gonna put it like that, alright? But, in all seriousness, the game's gameplay is pretty good. You gotta try to avoid these things that will kinda, make it so that you die, essentially. You can also get power-ups. It's a level system, I guess, you could say. You gotta try to get to the bottom of the thing, as I already said. There's walls that you can jump over, there's walls that you can't, there's moving things, there's just stationary, but what would I call them? I don't know. And the gameplay is very unique as you move around in, well, obviously, as you're watching, a very unique way. So, that's why I've come to the verdict that the gameplay gets a 5 out of 6, which means in total the game. What the fuck?
This
Theinnerwizdom
album, it's
No, please, anything but this. You're doing it 2 times to my boy,
it's
the greatest rapper of all time.
it's not good.
Theinnerwizdom
Is a songwriter, rapper, and auto crooner from the great country of Canada.
I don't know what the fuck just happened there, but in total, the game gets a 7 out of 10. Now, let's get into the next game. This game is called Rock and Sky Trip, where you have a rock and sky trip. What a terrible name. This game gets the worst name of the first 3 months of the year already. Well, I mean, it's already been the first 3 months of the year. That's kind of weird. Saying kind of weird that I'd say such a stupid thing. What a stupid thing to say. That's the second. Anyways, let's get into the. This game actually weirdly has good music. Here, have a listen. It's kind of unfitting, but it's still, regardless, good music. So I'm gonna have to give this a 1 out of 1 for the music. Now, let's get into the. I like the graphical style, and I'm tempted to give it a 3, but there's 2 things I don't like. 1, the hitboxes are kind of a little bad. 2, the bowling ball thing, it looks like a bowling ball, to be honest, that you control, kind of looks like a JPEG, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the graphics at all. So, because of that, the graphics are going to have to get a 2 out of 3. Now, let's get into the. We don't speak of how long it took me to beat this game. This 5-minute game. We don't speak about how long it took me to beat this. We just don't mention it. We try to forget about that. We try to. But you should talk about how difficult the game is. But you should fucking talk about how difficult the game is, you motherfucker. You motherfucker. I'm a fucking weeb and I wanna know. Wee. Well, if you think that, then first of all, fuck you. Second of all, the gameplay is fine. It's very short, like Mewtwo Killer's dick. But because of how many times you'll die, it should expand the game to be about 30 minutes, which is still pretty short. But for a Flash game, that's actually not that short. So, I'm gonna have to give the game, gameplay-wise, probably a 3 out of 6. Which means total the game gets a 6 out of 10. Next game. Jump in the Circle wins the least creative idea ever in any Flash game in the past 20 years, which is all of the history of Flash games. So, let's talk about the musical elements to this circle. Circular, like DVDs. Let's talk about the. It seems to be that the circle is not a musical circle, or as I like to call it, a cult. Anyways, so the music gets a 0 out of 1. Let's get into the. They're painfully average. The graphics are fucking average as shit. Just kidding, they're actually below average. The graphics get a 1 out of 3. And the reason why I'm giving them that is because they're simplistic and kind of shit. And You know, for being a game that's a circle, they could have at least made the circle a little better looking. Like, you know, maybe add some color to the circle. You know, like color, you know, that thing that games can have, that games have had since like the 1980s. You know that thing? Yeah, you should probably put some of that in your game. Anyways, let's get into the gameplay is so exciting. You try to hop over the spike. If you got hit by the spike, you have to start over. Sometimes the spike changes direction, but no matter what, you can jump. It is the most exciting thing since freezing to death. You can't do anything about it, and you can't slow the pain. It's just a gradual thing until you end up dying. Just waiting for the moment when a polar bear finally eats your flesh. But that moment never comes, because eventually a spike just hits you. That's a good metaphor, even though it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, the gameplay gets a 1 out of 6, which is why, in total, the game gets a boo 2 out of 10. Hopefully the next game's better. Let's get into the next game. Tunnel Ball is the best thing since murdering your loved ones. Let's make a sham review about its music qualities. There's no music, and I don't want you guys' ears to be hurt by listening to the sound effects. The music gets a 0 out of 1. Let's get into the next segment. The graphics aren't half bad, and I actually like them a lot. I like how it's kind of cel-shaded, and the controls are kind of weird, but we'll talk about that on the gameplay segment. The hitboxes are fine, so the graphics for this game get a 3 out of 3. Now, let's get into the gameplay is kind of like the one game we were just talking about, but inverted, if you get what I'm saying. Like, not really, actually. It's kinda not similar at all. That's a terrible comparison, and I should probably go and end my life. But seriously, though, the gameplay kind of has bad controls. Like, whenever I'm controlling the thing, it's always, like, really weird and hard to control, and it's kind of repetitive, sorta, type of deal. So, yeah, there's not much depth. It looks cool. So, the gameplay gets, it's kind of an inventive idea, so I guess the gameplay gets a 3 out of 6, which means in total, the game gets a 6 out of 10. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was a good video. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Bye, see you later. Your masturbator. Oh.